All right, it is time for one of my most anticipated top 10 lists, and that's for my sci-fi books. So I have a whole playlist down below of all of my top 10s or wrap-up videos for the year. So that has 4 videos on it, and this is the next one, and we're going to go through my sci-fi books. And now I need to add the caveat for sci-fi and fantasy, which is coming up later this week, that if there was a series, I didn't try to individually rank the books in that series, especially if like the whole series was so solid. I just put the series on the list, and I hope that's okay with everyone, especially if I read the majority of it this year. So that's the one caveat. I did rank it 10-1. Some things will be very predictable. Some things I think might surprise you guys. Maybe, I don't know. We'll find out. These are my top 10 sci-fi of 2021. So number 10 is We Are Satellites. This is a book I read in the fall this year. It's a soft, social, near-future sci-fi where you have this family, and through this family we follow this change in technology that's a major game changer, kind of, like how cell phones were such a big game changer. This is a device that allows you to perfectly multitask. And so one member of the family can't have this implant because they have epilepsy. Another person in the family just chooses not to, just doesn't want to. Someone does want it, and somebody does get it because they want the benefits, and have consequences happen that are not widely discussed, and people don't tend to believe them about their experiences or can't relate. And these are like our 4 viewpoints. And I really loved following this family. This family felt very relatable, and I thought it was a really interesting way to delve into this idea that is not far off. There will be another technological thing that not everyone can access equally, whether they are neurodivergent or whether they have access to money that is required to get it. Like, there's all these reasons why that if you can't get an opportunistic technology. And I thought that was really cool. Thought it was really engaging. I read it really quickly, and it's one of the books that was released this year that I feel like does not get the buzz it deserves. So if you're someone that's looking to get into science fiction, I think you should pick it up. It's very, very accessible, I feel. The next one on this list is The Prey of Gods by Nicky Drayden. Started my Nicky Drayden fangirling journey, and this is honestly a book that could have also been on the fantasy list. It is 50-50 sci-fi and fantasy, okay? So I just had to pick a list to put it on because I don't have like a speculative list. Maybe I should. I don't know. Right now, I wanted a sci-fi list and a fantasy list, and this is how it worked out when I looked at all the books I wanted to talk about this month. The Prey of Gods is a near-future book. It takes place in South Africa, and we follow a bunch of perspectives during this kind of pivotal changing point. There are gods involved and people who want to obtain power through fantastical means. There are also really weird genetic drugs happening. There's also an AI revolution. Like, there are so many cool elements in this story, which makes it such a cool genre blender. It's really short. It's 400 pages, like on the dot, which I guess maybe that's not short, but I read it in like 3 days in February, my least favorite month of the year. It got me through February. I just really enjoyed reading it. I could see it easily being like a mini series and a TV show because it has all of these characters, and it was reminding me of watching like a bingeable Netflix show is how I felt while reading this story. So that's why it had to be on this list. So number 8 is one of those first in the caveat section. This is the entire Pattern Master series by Octavia Butler. I read the entire thing this year. Wild Seed all the way to Pattern Master, including Survivor, which is an out of print sort of 4th book in the series. I have a whole Pattern Master series, should you read / what order do you read it in video, because it's confusing. Probably one of the most confusing series ever. My general rule is usually publication order, but I read it in chronological order, like in-world chronological order. Anyways, there's a whole video for that. It's confusing. But overall, oh, another cat. This is why I don't let you guys in here when I film. Do you know that? Like, this is why. In general, I really liked the Pattern Master series. I enjoyed a lot of the different sci-fi elements that existed and the cohesive theme of community and community development and evolution and the evolution of humans and how that would affect their communities and relationships to each other and their internal hierarchies. All of that gets explored through very different sci-fi elements, and again, I feel like this needs to be said. I feel like people know this, but it is at times graphic and dark, hard material. One of my favorite books. I do not blame people in this series if they don't finish it, because it is so dark and disturbing at times. But I couldn't put it down, because that's another cool thing about this series is you get kind of different subgenres of sci-fi in this. You have a historical sci-fi in Wild Seed. You have a contagion thriller in Clay's arc. So it's a really interesting project, and for me, it kind of reminded me of like watching Alien and Aliens, and then, we don't talk about Prometheus, but like it's also kind of the origin story, and you have a lot of that here, where Pattern Master is the first book, but the last chronologically, and the other books are all stories of how did we get here. Now, I wish Pattern Master was a stronger ending, but it's also her debut, so I don't really hold that against her. So that is why, though, this series as a whole is number 8 on this list. The next one on this list is Chaos on Catnip, which I have not talked about nearly enough because really people do not read it. Part of it is that it's a young adult sci-fi thriller, and I feel like that's just a very niche part of the young adult age group. But regardless, I adore this series. I have a series review for it. I have loved it from the minute I have read the first book, and this is its sequel, and it is still so good. So you should read this book if you want a thriller that has all of its plot elements not around the miscommunication trope. It's just around things are happening, kids have to Scooby-Doo it, it's great, and it's all about found family and this online community that is formed on this internet source called Catnet. So what happens in the first book is our main character is this young woman who has to keep traveling around the country because her mom is running away from her father. She doesn't really know why, but she sometimes has to change schools as much as 3 or 4 times in a year, so her only friends are on Catnet, and little do they know, Catnet is run by an AI. So you have a really fun, sassy, caring AI character, and then you just have this really lovely friend group, and like I said, they gotta Scooby-Doo things. It's fantastic. I love it. It's a warm hug of a series for me. I would read any number of entries in it, and that is why it made it on the list this year. Number 6 is the entire Escaping Exodus duology. I love Nikki Drayden. This was the year of discovering Nikki Drayden. I have one more book to read, and I'm hoping to read it in December, this month. That's Temper, and I think that's a fantasy. But regardless, this is probably the most well-known or well-read, at least in my circles on BookTube, of her series. It is a duology set in space, hundreds of years after we have messed up Earth. People have to live on these space beasts out in the universe, and they are very parasitic in their relationship to these space beasts. And when we start the book in Escaping Exodus, we are following 2 point of views. One, a young woman who is set up to be the heir, the next ruler of this community, and one who is just a very high-end skilled worker, and they are close friends. And it's really interesting watching them transition from one beast to another, the complications that occur. There's a whole lot of adults trying to ignore things that are going wrong, that probably need to be fixed and are not sustainable, and we have these women who are late teens, like they're not so much coming of age, they are almost in adulthood as they're right, but they're still transitioning from the carefree, ignorant style of childhood into adulthood, and it's really interesting. The culture is so cool. It is graphic at times because of how they're describing the squishiness and the intestines of these space beasts. And it's just really interesting how this evolves and what happens with our character, and everything these characters do makes sense. I have a series review for it. My favorite thing about this series are the characters. They're so good. I love them so much. And the art is stunning. Like, I love whoever does the art for Nikki Drayden books. They're just my favorite things. Now, these top 5 are really close, okay? So it was really hard to delineate some of them. But coming in at number 5 is The Space Between Worlds by Micaiah Johnson. Again, I have a review for this. I have a review for almost everything on this list. So if you want more detailed thoughts, or if you want to gush about it or discuss it more, I will have a lot of those reviews listed down below. But I really loved this book. So this book, I think it needs to be said up front, is not the action-packed sci-fi I feel like people expect it to be, and I think that makes people really disappointed, or people pick it up who they wouldn't have picked it up if they knew how slow-paced and character-driven it is. This is a story about a time where there is multi-dimensional travel, but you can only travel to another dimension if that version of yourself no longer exists. That's how this travel works, and our main character happens to be born into a position in society where she will consistently end up dead. Like, it's a socioeconomic commentary on her position, right? And we follow her as she works for this really well-off company to travel to different places to help them with economics or whatever, basically. She is just a well-paid grunt of this company. And things kind of happen, and she has to deal with things. And what I was not expecting from this story was how much I cared about her journey and the thematic nuance that happens in these like 350 pages, and all of the themes that get discussed, and I still think about it, and it is one of those books that looks way prettier in person than it does on screen. Like, I'm showing you an image right here because it's just easier for people to read and see. But when I found it in the bookstore, I'm like, this cover is stunning. And then I'm just so happy that I love it so much. This was a debut by this author, and I think they have a sequel coming out next year. It might be in the same world, it might be a different world, because this is a standalone, and I cannot wait. Like, I legit cannot wait, because I loved the character work, I loved the theme work, I thought the sci-fi stuff was cool, I thought this whole city that is delineated by haves and have-nots in a very strict, straight line was really fun to explore and travel between. It was really great. So then number 4 is A Desolation Called Peace. The sequel to A Memory Called Empire, and it got way too few votes in the Goodreads Choice Awards. And I think that's because people have not read A Memory Called Empire yet, so they haven't read A Desolation Called Peace. And everyone knows that they should, but they don't. So, for people who really loved A Memory Called Empire, I think you will also enjoy this. There might be some exceptions. I've definitely not seen it always work, but to me, it's at least the same quality, but it has a different focus. So while the first one is very much about culture, it's very thematically and ideas driven, and it has a very tense political plot line, this one more leans into first contact and kind of different global political tensions and more into the military-ish sci-fi. Like, I wouldn't say it's your traditional military sci-fi, but there are elements of that, as there are elements of first contact, and there is still all of that thematic richness, but it's directed in different avenues. Like, what is a person comes up again. Like, that theme that exists in the first book is still here. So, although I like thinking and talking about A Memory Called Empire more, in terms of a reading experience, A Desolation Called Peace was like my sci-fi trope candy. It was so much fun trying to hypothesize what's happening, watching character relationships develop, because we do have characters that we had from the first book in this. And it's multi-POV, so if you were like, I like Mahit, but I didn't like being in her head all the time, well, you get other point of views, which I thought was really cool and a great way of like showing us different perspectives. Like, we get some Tex Kalanli point of views, which is so cool because their culture is very different from Mahit, and that's all we had in the first book. So I thought this was a perfect conclusion sequel to A Memory Called Empire, and I think we might one day get a novella in this world, and I will eat it up because I think I know what character it would follow, and it'd be great. So I really love that duology. I think it deserves all the love, all the hype, and yeah, more people need to try it out. See if it's your cup of tea. Like, I understand when it's not someone's cup of tea, but it could be yours, and if it is, it's probably going to be a 5-star experience. I am now specifically talking to Evie from She Was Only Evie because I think she's going to love this series, and she hasn't read it yet. Okay, these top 3 were all 5 stars, so it got really difficult, but we're going to say number 3 is The Echo Wife by Sarah Gailey. And this book was unputdownable for me. I picked it up on a whim at the library and read it within 30 hours. For me, it was like a psychological thriller that I couldn't stop looking at. I really liked watching this main character do what she was doing. To be very vague, because this is defined as a thriller and people do not like to know a lot of the context of thrillers, this is about a woman whose husband betrayed her. They got a divorce. He's with another woman. And one day she gets a call from this other woman and needs to help her solve a situation that she's caused. And things go from there. The back of the book reveals more, but I will not. I won't even tell you what the sci-fi element is, but I will tell you I thought the sci-fi element was done pretty well, and our main character is kind of one of those prickly, unlikable scientist characters. But I thought she was done really well. Like, I liked how she was, and I liked the understanding we got for how she is the person she is, because we get a lot of that. There's a lot of present-day plot arc, but there's also allusions to her past and why she is the way she is, and I don't think the ending hits the same for everyone, but the ending floored me. I don't know why. Like, I've never been so, like, taken aback by the last couple paragraphs in a book. Like, I don't know how this book could have ended any other way. For me, it literally had a perfect ending. I had no issues with the pacing throughout. I found it completely consumable. A book that made me want to read, had quality sci-fi content, quality themes. That's a winner, right? So that's why it was number 3 for me. And yeah, I had a great time, and I thought it was very thrilling, but I will say it is a thriller that will not contain conventional twists. Like, I feel like I could tell you what it's about because it's not a twist, but I'm being vague just because I don't want to spoil someone's experience, but like you find out in like the first couple pages anything that might be mysterious, and then you're just watching the roller coaster, and it is interesting. Number 2 is one of those books that I read in December of last year, and I almost forgot to put it on the list, but how could I? And that is Revenant Gun, the last book in Machineries of Empire. This book was 5 stars from the first chapter. This book continued to be 5 stars. This book was 5 stars. This book was amazing. Like, I love Machineries of Empire. I talk about it a lot. It's a really weird space opera. It is definitely not for everyone. It is confusing. It is convoluted, but I have so much fun with it. And this last book, every book has had a different cast of point of views, and I really liked one of the point of views. It was a perspective that I had been craving the whole series, and when we got it, I was like, no, really? There were some revelations in this book that we hadn't had before, and I just thought it was a really great, thrilling conclusion, and I cannot wait to reread the series again, knowing what I know from this book. It was just so good, okay? I mean, third book in a series, what am I going to say? I have a whole should you read for Machineries of Empire. You should read it, or at least try it. They're short. All 3 books together, 900 pages, real quick. And then number 1, this is not a surprise. This is not shocking. It's The Best of All Possible Worlds by Karen Lord. I'm here to beg all of the Becky Chamber readers, read this book. I think you will love it. I think it is really quality, soft sci-fi. So this is a story about people who can no longer live on their planet because of biological warfare. And this other planet takes in these refugees, and it's about them trying to figure out how to maintain their culture and way of life and coexist with other people on this planet. And it's a fine balance there. So it's not about them being forced to assimilate into the culture. It's about this planet kind of taking them in. And in the process of that, we have our main character, Grace, who is a scientist who works with some people from that culture to travel around the globe and figure out, okay, where can you live? Where are people who are genetically close to you? Because this is also a part of, I don't know if it's future or just different world sci-fi, where humans evolve different psychic abilities or can just be non-psychic able. Like, there's different levels of brain activity, and these are people who have pretty high psychic abilities and want to be close to that with other individuals. So it's a combination of trying to find people who might want to, form communities with these people, and they travel around, and it just has lovely found family elements as they travel around, very Star Trek episode of the week vibes, but then also over the layer of all of these like individual episodic chapters, this amazing slow burn romance that I adore with my entire being. I accidentally read this Valentine's Day weekend. I was on my TBR, but I didn't know it was a romance when I picked it up. And I loved it so much. It's probably one of my favorite romances of all time. It was so great. So for me, this was like a really solid season of TV in like 300 pages. And like, it was amazing and beautiful. And I just loved the messaging of it. Like, we are trying to come back from this horrible moment in history by trying to embrace culture and find a place for them. I think that's just lovely. So I love that book with all my heart. It's unsurprising that it's here. I mean, you guys already knew this was happening. Some of you have probably already clicked away from the video. But those are my top 10 sci-fi of 2021. It was an amazing year for me reading science fiction. I could talk about so many other sci-fi books. These are just the top 10. And if you want to leave an emoji, leave a world, because Best of All Possible Worlds. So do that. I mean, I guess you could leave any planet. Like if you want to leave like Jupiter or Saturn or whatever, I won't be mad. I don't even know if there are emojis for that. Probably are. And let me know any science fiction books that you loved reading this year. And like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.